أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي. اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي. ربنا زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر أولياءك في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم انصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم فرج عنا من إخواننا في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم نفس كربنا وكربا وثبت أقدامنا وأقدامهم والطف بنا وبهم يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب العالمين. وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين آمين يا رب العالمين. Yes, continuing a reading of Allama Iqbal's Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam, and we had stopped at the modern Russian writer Ouspensky in his book called Tertium Organum conceived the fourth dimension to be the movement of a three-dimensional figure in a direction not contained in itself. So the fourth dimension in Einstein, according to Allama Iqbal's understanding, is time. And for him, Einstein sort of merges time into space. So he bring in Ouspensky here to present an idea where time is conceived as a fourth dimension, but I guess not reduced to a dimension of a space. Ouspensky in his book called Conceive the Fourth Dimension to be the movement of the three-dimensional figure in the direction contained in itself. So the fourth dimension to be the movement. I think what we should remember is, in the Allama Iqbal, we should always remember his objective, what is his overarching purpose in discussing these theories. In this context, two things are very important for him: movement. That's why he spent so much time on trying to refute Zeno. The movement is real. And time is something separate from space, because time is the source of the movement, source of movement, and source of creativity. And if time is reduced to space, or time is something conceptualized in terms of space or in the manner of space, then this goes away, because space for him is something space for Allama Iqbal is something which is at least not creative. it's more preordained, something preordained. It's more so it's part of causal chain in a way in which time is not. So when he goes to Ouspensky, and what he says there is, for Ouspensky, this fourth dimension, that is time, and three dimensions are part of space, furniture of space. So Ouspensky conceives the fourth dimension to be the movement. So what is the fourth dimension? It is the movement. Of the three-dimensional figure. So it is the movement of the three-dimensional figure, which is a spatial figure. But this movement is not contained in itself. So this is something created. So even if we consider time as somehow related to space in terms of the fourth dimension, that fourth dimension should be conceived not in the manner of Einstein. Obviously, Einstein, as Allama Iqbal, understand him, but in a manner in which it is something which is not totally contained in and reduced to the three-dimensional figure of space, three-dimensional figure in space. So that's one thing which jumps on us to start with. And since time is, now he brings in time explicitly, a distance. The distance is also a special concept, but time is the distance separating events in order of succession and binding them in different wholes. It is obviously a distance lying in a direction not contained in the three-dimensional space. So that's in a way an evidence of what was said before, that the fourth dimension is to be conceived as a movement which is not contained in a three-dimensional figure, even though it is the movement of three-dimensional. What was it? Just as movement of the point, the line, and jump on a bit. Movement of a three-dimensional figure. So conceive the fourth dimension should be the movement of the three-dimensional figure in the direction not contained in itself. Okay, so just as the movement of the point, the line and the surface in a direction not contained in them gives us the ordinary three-dimensional space. Just as the movement of point, the line and the surface in a direction not contained in them gives the ordinary three-dimensional space. That's one way of looking at it. In the same way, the movement of three-dimensional figure, in a direction not contained in itself must give us the fourth dimensional space, which is time. And since time is the distance separating events in order of succession and binding them in different wholes, it is obviously a distance lying in a direction not contained at three-dimensional. As a new dimension, this distance separating events in the order of incommensurable. That's all he wants to. So Ouspensky, he brings in Ouspensky which in his mind, whose idea in this regard in his mind is similar to Einstein in the sense that he also conceives time as a fourth-dimensional figure, but he is separate. He is different from Einstein in the sense that he conceives of that fourth dimension as something which is not contained in the three-dimensional figures, which is, in a way, although it emerges out of it, it cannot be reduced to it. So that, in a way, satisfies Iqbal's aim of not reducing time to space because of the negative repercussions that entail in his eyes. As a new dimension, this distance separating events in the order of succession, that's all he is looking for here. This incommensurability between space and time. They are not the same levels of concepts. With the in order to say is incommensurable with the dimension of 3 dimensions, as a year is incommensurable with St. Petersburg. Year is a totally different concept than a place, which can be understood in terms of space. But here, a year, even though it, in a way, is the 4 dimensions, but is a 4 dimension, not of the 3 dimension, but it is the movement of the 3-dimensional figure which is not contained in it. Okay. It is perpendicular to all direction of 3 dimensions and is not parallel to any of them. Elsewhere in the same book, Ouspensky describes our time sense as a misty space sense and argues a misty space. So I think Ouspensky serves this purpose here because in his mind he also treated space and time as closely connected concepts. But in contrast to Einstein, he doesn't reduce time to space, which is the positive aspect of it. So this obviously means that so our time sense has a misty space sense and argues on the basis of our psychic constitution that was elsewhere in the same book. Ouspensky desired time sense of a misty space sense and argued that on the basis of our psychic constitution that to 1, 2, or 3 dimensional beings, the higher dimension must always appear as succession in time. To mystery sense, and argue that on the basis of our psychic constitution, that to 1, 2, or 3 dimensional beings, the higher dimension must always appear succession in time. This obviously means that what appears to us 3-dimensional beings as 3-dimensional as time is in reality imperfectly sensed space dimension, according to which in its own nature does not differ from the perfectly sensed dimension. In other words, time is not a genuine creative moment. Oh, okay. So even not satisfied with Ouspensky, obviously, and that what we call future events are not fresh happenings, but things already given and look at it. Yet in his search for the fresh direction, other than the 3 dimensions, need a real serial time, that is a distance separating events in the order of succession. Okay, thus time which was needed and consequently viewed as succession for the purposes of the one stage of argument is quietly divested. So it's a good start, but then goes back. although it's still better than Einstein at a later stage of his serial character and reduced to what does not differ in anything from the other lines and dimensional state. I think Ouspensky also here, and we'll finish on that probably on this point. Ouspensky also serves another purpose, I think, here. Ouspensky also serves another purpose here in the sense that through Ouspensky, he demonstrates why Einstein's fourth dimension is actually tantamount to time as fourth dimension is tantamount to reducing time to space, making it an appendage to space, which is obviously unacceptable for Iqbal. So Ouspensky, even though for him fourth dimension is a movement not contained within three dimensions, it is still part of three dimension in the sense that time is itself conceived as a distance. Even though this distance is the distance between two events in a space. So time is conceived as a distance in the occurrence of two events, but in a different dimension. But then Allama Iqbal goes on to explain why it, even though it, for three-dimensional figures like us, it appears from a subjective point of view to be a different dimension. It's in fact not, or something like that. But the point I wanted to make was that Ouspensky sort of provides an explanation of why Einstein's fourth dimension is actually tantamount to time as a fourth dimension is tantamount to reducing time to space. Let's go back to text one more time, and then we'll stop here. So, yet in this search for fresh direction other than the three Euclidean dimensions, Ouspensky need a real serial time, that is, a distance separating events in order of succession. Thus, time which was needed and consequently viewed as a succession for the purpose of one stage of the argument is quietly divested. So it was a good start, but at a later stage of its serial divested of its serial character and reduced to what does not differ in anything from the other lines and dimensions of its space, because that serial character is just a psychic or subjective lack of a being, which, for example, a three-dimensional being or two-dimensional being or one-dimensional being. It is because of this serial character term that Ouspensky was able to regard it as a genuine new direction in it. So serial character is important. If this characteristic is in reality an illusion, how can it fulfill Ouspensky's requirement of an original dimension? We'll go on to it. Okay, so that might actually, today's reading sort of, takes us back, and we might not have understood something which we did just before that, as should have been or correctly. Um, when he was talking about Einstein, no, it is possible for a layman to understand the real nature of Einstein's time is. There he said, it is obvious that Einstein is not a Bergson's pure duration, nor can be regarded as a serial time in Einstein. Serial time is the essence of causality as defined by Kant. The cause and its effects are mutually so related that former is prior to this, so that if the former is not, the latter cannot. Mathematical time is a serial time. Then on the basis of the theory, it is possible by a careful choice of the velocities of the system in which a given set of events is happening to make this effect precede. It appears to me that the time regarded for them really ceases to be time. And one way of it ceasing to be time is for time to lose its serial character. We would have to, I think there's some more discussion on Ouspensky, and then probably we will go back and try to reread that section. Okay, subhanakallah wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. وصلى وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين.